If you still think smart robots like R2D2 are still years and years away, then you better watch this video. Today, we get the chance to interview the CEO of Serve Robotics, the leading robotics company known for its autonomous sidewalk delivery robots. A spin-out from Uber, their partnership with Uber Eats began in 2022. Since then, Serve's robotic deliveries with Uber have expanded to more than 750 restaurants in Los Angeles and are deploying up to 2,000 of its cute little bots via Uber's platform in multiple markets across the US. They've established partnerships with Shake Shack, 7-Eleven, and NVIDIA. This is not going to stop with just sidewalk delivery. Serve has partnered with Wing Aviation so you can get your deliveries over the air as well. And they just bought the AutoCAD technology as they expand into autonomous restaurant technology. Dr. Ali Kashani is the co-founder and CEO of Serve Robotics, which he launched in 2021. Dr. Kashani previously held executive roles at Postmates and Nurio Technology. He's an established inventor with 15 granted or pending patents to his name and holds a PhD in robotics. Thank you so much. I appreciate this, Ali. This is an exciting one. I'm very excited for this. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Yeah, so one of the things that makes you guys really different, and from what I've seen so far, is you truly are leading in the space. I've seen here up to 2,000 bots you're building. You have 750 restaurants. You're physically out there in LA delivering. Tell me more about exactly where you're standing here at this point.
Yeah, they say future is here, but not evenly distributed. This is the case. If you go to Los Angeles right now, you can open Uber Eats, place an order from 750 different restaurants, and one of our robots will bring you your food, which is still something that blows my mind every time I go visit myself. And we are now building 2,000 more robots that are going to be deployed next year. They are under contract we have with Uber and Uber Eats. And when we do launch these robots, we would basically be the largest autonomous level 4 fleet in the world. So that's something that obviously we're very excited about.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you more about what you meant by level 4 autonomous, but let's stick with the business side first.
Yeah.
How much funding have you got? Tell me more about this partnership with Uber, and then we'll go through each of the partners you've also established.
Sure. Maybe I'll give you a little bit of history. So I first joined Postmates, which was one of the largest delivery platforms in the country, back in 2017 when they acquired my company. And I started this new division inside Postmates to make robotic delivery possible. And that's basically where this entire initiative, Serve Robotics, began. But we were soon, or a couple of years later, acquired by Uber. And we joined Uber in 2020. And then I decided to take my team and spin it out of Uber into an independent company. So I worked with the folks at Uber. We became an independent company called Serve Robotics in 2021. So we've been a separate entity for the last close to 4 years. And actually, as of a few months ago, we went public. We listed on NASDAQ, and we've been publicly trading since. In the 4 years of being an independent company, we've raised $120 million in funding. Our investors include Uber, NVIDIA, 7-Eleven, Delivery Hero, which is basically Uber Eats in Asia and Europe. So we have some really incredible folks that have been helping us along the way, and partners that we continue to work with, like Uber Eats.
Wow. I tell you, there's so many things here that means that you're the first and you're growing quickly. So you've got, sorry, how much money did you invest? Did you not say something like 800 or 800
We raised $120 million since we
120.
started as a separate company.
Okay, so you got $120 million. And then how many, is it just LA now, or you have multiple states?
Yeah, we are operating in LA and we've expanded our footprint. We're continuing to expand. We just recently launched in downtown LA, for example. There are 750 restaurants that today we are serving. And we've also announced that we are going to Dallas next. So this is going to happen in the first half of next year. The 2,000 robots are being manufactured. In fact, Magna International, one of the largest automakers in North America, they're going to be assembling our robots for us right here in the US. And as those robots roll out, we are expanding our footprint next year. The first 100 of that 2,000 is actually coming on into our fleet by the end of this year, and then the rest of them throughout next year. And as we get the robots, we expand our footprint in LA and then beyond LA into Dallas and a few other markets by the end of the year. So you're gonna see these robots in many cities.
Right. Okay. So you have 100, And are they working well? Like you could physically in these, 4 cities in LA, 4 neighborhoods in LA, you can use the Uber Eats app, which is
Yeah.
an amazing partnership. Click on it, order food from any restaurant, I suppose. And then if it happens to be one that you guys serve, then it happens to just be delivered that way, or how does that work?
That's right. Yes. If you are ordering from one of those 700 something restaurants
Yeah.
and a robot happens to be available in that area, you could get assigned. This is decided by Uber. Basically, both on
Wow.
the restaurant side and the customer side, they receive an email or a message when they place the order to say that, hey, your order is being delivered by a robot. It's very easy to use. You don't need to opt in. You don't need to get trained. They're very, very simple. And folks really like them. It's very rare for them to opt out of using robots. There are advantages for customers because they don't have to tip a robot. So that's makes the cost. It makes deliveries more cost effective for customers. And there are advantages for merchants because the robots are actually quite reliable. We deliver more percentage of our orders than couriers do. So couriers are maybe about 96, 98% completion rate when they pick up an order. We complete 99.8 to 99.9%, like a whole extra 9.
Wow. Okay. And so then your just business metrics here. It's turning into, you explained some benefits to the merchant and some benefits to the customer. About the speed of delivery, is it about the same? What metrics do you need to hit in order to truly be like, this is something every restaurant, it would be a no-brainer for all of them to adopt this?
Yeah, so a few maybe important pieces of context. First, about 50% of deliveries, or half of all deliveries in the United States are less than 2.5 miles in distance.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really need a car. This is where our little tagline comes from. Why move a 2-pound burrito in a 2-ton car? This is where that idea came from, which is you don't really need a car for this. And if you think about it, there are a lot of negatives when you use a car to do that delivery because you are, emitting, you are causing congestion, you're taking space in cities. Half of real estate in cities are dedicated to cars as a result. But it's not just that, it's also unsafe. So you have 20 plus people or pedestrians every single day losing their lives because of vehicles, because of collision with vehicles. You also have a cost. So a lot of these delivery platforms, for example, have struggled to become profitable as a result of cost of delivery, which is mostly labor. And when you actually look at it, drivers believe they're not paid enough. Restaurants think they're paying too much. Customers think they're paying too much. And the platforms are not making enough money. So there's something fundamentally wrong here. And the reason for that is you need to introduce automation. That's what we've been really missing. If I can kind of continue these thoughts, actually, I will share one more interesting analogy. If you ship something from China to your front door right now, it would
Right.
cost $2 to get it. But if you
Right.
ship it from Chinatown, it costs $8 to $10. Isn't that absurd? It's upside down. But I will explain the reason. When you look at one of these cargo ships today, they have about 20 sailors on them. They move more goods than the entire British Navy of 100,000 people did a couple hundred years ago. So each person in long distance shipping is effectively doing the work of 5,000 people. But if you look at last mile, that number is 2. One person is doing the job of 2 people from the time of horses. So like computers, vehicles, internet, like all these things invented in the last 100 years has only doubled our performance there rather than 5,000 times performance increase over long distance. So that's the problem we are trying to solve. And it turns out that, again, most deliveries are really short distance and are within the range that a robot can do in a timely manner that's similar to humans.
Wow. Okay. And then what is the cost, or is this available for any restaurant to call you up today and buy one? What is your business model?
It's a service model, so we operate the robots. And if you are in LA right now, in any one of our operating areas, if there's a restaurant there, they can contact us and immediately get on board. It's actually quite easy to get onboarded with the platform. If they're on Uber, it's even easier. They just flick a switch, basically. Otherwise, the integration, there are a few different ways they can integrate with us. And then as we expand to new markets, we would be able to bring more and more restaurants on board.
What's the cost though? As a service, is it a monthly?
Right.
Yeah.
It no, it actually in this case it's a per delivery cost. So just like they pay Uber or DoorDash or others, they pay per
Mm-hmm.
delivery. We charge them per delivery, but we charge them less.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So for them, it's less cost for them.
that's right.
But then for the customer,
I mentioned that $8 to $10. We are
yeah.
charging less than that. If you want to get a sense, now we don't disclose our pricing and everything,
Right.
but it is considerably less to make it a good value proposition for the merchants to
On
work
the
with
merchant
us.
side, and then on the customer side, does it cost less for them to order because there's all sorts of fees, right? There's a delivery fee, there's a service fee, there's an Uber fee.
Yeah,
uh is
I
that
mean,
cost lower to them? And one you said was no need to tip, but that
that's right.
could be quite significant. Yeah.
Yeah, tipping is actually very significant. From a customer's point of view, one of the when they do surveys about people using delivery services, what I've seen most recently is the biggest reason people don't use these services at all, or more often than they do, is
Mm-hmm.
tipping. It really increases the cost to customers quite substantially. So that goes away. Today, we don't control the customer relationship. So Uber decides what they charge, and I don't have necessarily a lot of insights or input into that. But we do know that tips are not passed, or there are no tips coming to the robots. And when people sometimes pre-tip before they place an order, that's refunded to them once the robot is
Okay.
assigned.
Okay. And then are you strictly with Uber? Is this a Uber thing, or is this going to be any delivery? Lyft wants to do it too. Are you going to be okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the robots that I mentioned, we have an agreement with Uber to launch 2,000 robots for Uber Eats, but the robots are not exclusive to Uber Eats. They can actually work with anybody. Their infrastructure in the city, any restaurant or even other platforms can tap into that supply of vehicles, basically.
What's the future for you? Like, are you expecting how many? What's the market TAM for bots, of these kind of bots? And is it just? I know we'll talk later about this delivery by drone, but just this one, how many bots do you think that the world will accept, in which cities and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it in the terms that I outlined, which is the impact of long distance shipping costs going down to like $2 because of all that productivity gain and automation, the impact we are going to have by bringing automation finally to last mile, I don't think we can even picture that world. Like long distance automation effectively is what brought us globalization, the ability to trade and buy things off Amazon, and all that really is possible because of the fact that we brought that cost down so significantly. I can't even imagine the impact and the size of the impact when you bring that cost down locally. When instead of a $10 delivery, you could do a delivery that cost $1. What would that actually enable? For example, if I'm buying things like today, I buy a pair of shoes on Amazon, I have to wait a few days. I get them, they're the wrong size. I have to then deal with reverse logistics of shipping it back and then getting a new one. I actually recently did that. I gave up. I got 2 pairs. I gave up at the end. They were both the wrong size. But imagine if you actually buy from a local merchant, it comes to you in a robot right away. It costs very little to do that shipping. And in fact, the robot waits for you to put them on, try them, see which ones fit. The ones that you don't like, you put it back in the robot and it goes back. It's a really simple idea, but it's a whole new way of accessing the inventory that's available to you locally. I think there's going to be a lot of new products and services offered when you bring that local cost of transportation down that we may not even be thinking about, beyond ordering food and groceries and parcels and everything else that we think about right now.
Okay, well, very interesting, mind blowing. So right now it's a food delivery. Sounds like you're expanding to any last mile delivery, and you'll probably have multiple variations of the bot that can have different size cargo.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing about robots is that often they are in a way custom made for specific high volume work. So in our case, last mile transportation in cities is something that we do millions of times every single day in this country. So it makes sense to have a robot that's designed for that purpose. It would always be the best priced for that purpose. And then over time, we are going to expand the capabilities of that robot. We are going to make it do other types of deliveries. We are talking to folks about pharmacy right now, for example. I don't know, alcohol, groceries. 7-Eleven obviously is an existing partner, so that's for convenience goods. So you're going to see that expansion to other things the robot can move. But over time, I would expect the robots are going to do more than just move last mile goods. We've actually been approached by airports or hospitals. Or there's really the problem you're solving is robots moving in human environments. And I know you guys discuss humanoid robots. A lot of folks are focused on that, and most of the focus is the form factor. But even when those robots are done, you're going to need them to move among humans. One of the hardest places to move among humans is sidewalks. It's absolutely chaotic. You're dealing with people and pets, and we've dealt with pet goats, like things you could never imagine you have to deal with. Poor infrastructure, cars, everything is there. If you can solve that, which we have, and we are now more reliable than humans, you can take that technology and apply it to so many other environments. And we are not going into the street. I think there are incredible companies like Tesla that are solving that problem. And we are not going into warehouses. That's also a place that a lot of people are already solving. It's a much simpler problem in a warehouse, much more difficult problem on the street when you have a vehicle. But every other space, every human space that we exist with machines, that's a place that we are focusing on.
I love it. Okay. I mean, my parents used to own some pharmacies, retail pharmacies, and the delivery, they're all within, right? Like 6 blocks of the place.
Exactly.
And so all of that could be delivered by you guys. And then, like you said, hospital delivery. Right. So when I introduced you, I called you an R2D2. Is this what this is? What do you think this is? Where does
I've been called a robot before, but I think you call my robot R2D2.
I called not you. You're a robot R2D2, not you.
Yeah, look, we've actually been inspired a lot by the work that's been done by Hollywood. I think Hollywood is kind of a double-edged sword, because in one hand there's some really incredible robot characters that have been created, and we can get inspiration from them. On the other hand, they also have created this dystopian view of the future, which I really don't agree with. I think robots are here to serve us. That's literally why the company is called Serve Robotics. But we've spent a lot of time on making these robots really fun, something that if you see it on the sidewalk, it actually makes your day. It's a pleasant experience, and it's been very successful. I have photos of folks kissing the robot, like just not people we know. I have photos of folks dressing as a robot in Halloween, and again, like no one that we actually knew. We just come across this on social media. The relationship between these robots and folks in LA has actually been really positive. And at this point, in fact, the most surprising thing is that no one even looks up when a robot is passing by, because it's so normal to them. It's like a mailbox at this point.
Yeah, there's a Japanese restaurant we visit here regularly, and they have these standard bots that you deliver you the hot drinks and the water, and they've been there for over a year. Yeah. So it must be something that the restaurant feels has been very effective for them.
That's right.
Just delivering the water. And so let's talk about how the bot is designed, right? You guys created this bot. Obviously, it's got the beautiful eyes, right? You've had to make sure that people like the bot. They don't hate it. We've seen stories. I've seen lots of videos now of people going crazy and kicking and screaming and fighting these bots. How did you design the bot so that it's much more accepted by humans just walking around?
Yeah, so let me give you some numbers and work my way backwards into the design. So I mentioned 99.8 to 99.9% of deliveries successfully completed. So that 0.1 to 0.2% failures, it includes everything from people messing with robots to technology failure to, I don't know, anything that could happen that you can think of or you can't think of is in that 0.1 to 0.2%. So it's actually not very often. In fact, I often joke that I get this question more often than this kind of incidents happen. But they do happen. It's not that they don't. Of course, we are in real world. In real world, everything that you can imagine is going to happen to you. The general, again, relationship has been really positive. But what we have done is there's some deterrence. For example, the robots have cameras, of course. They have alarm if necessary. But we actually have instructed our SOPs and our folks that are, that the robot escalates to when this kind of thing happen, to actually not use those alarms very easily. Like, we don't want this negative interaction with the robots. We want people to have that positive impression. A lot of times it's kids. They want to have fun. They block the robot to see what it does. Our power is that we can just stop, and that gets really boring. and then they go away. So half the time, all you have to do is just wait. There are rare cases where people start to actually mess with robots or try to damage them. And you mentioned some social media posts. There's like 5 of them that recirculate. Again, it's not very common, but they have happened. But they're very, very, very rare. And again, as part of cost of doing business, we accept that. It's just it's one of the things you accept when you drive a car, that someone might dent your vehicle or whatnot. But again, it's not a very common occurrence as people think it is. And then there was one case in 5 years, and this is a funny story. 5 years of being in LA, there was one time when someone actually tried to steal our robots. Mm-hmm. And they loaded it. There was 2 individuals who did this clearly as a kind of a business. You could see all the scooters around that they were stealing. So they loaded it into the back of their truck, and we can see the videos of this, of course. Our robot jumped off the back of the truck and came home. And within 30 minutes, those 2 individuals were arrested. And the craziest part about this, we actually posted this on social media as well for people to see what happened. But like, it's that rare. And when it happens, the robots can actually manage that quite well. So, it again, more often I'm explaining this than it actually is happening to us. But the rare time it does, it's cost of doing business.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. You know best. Okay. So let's talk about what exactly the bot can and cannot do. Yeah. So it's a gorgeous bot. It has wheels. It can pick, somebody puts in the food, they order it, and it knows the direction, and it goes and navigates through the sidewalks. It can recognize humans. You called it level 4 autonomy. But of course, just like all autonomous vehicles today, including cars, there's teleoperation. So there's people looking through the cameras, could take over if needed. Tell me how it's all working together. What exactly is the autonomous part that it's able to do today?
Yeah, that's right. So I guess, if you think about the 5 levels of autonomy, level 2 is where folks are involved. They have to be in the loop effectively, either holding the steering or looking at the road. Level 5, the highest level, is where the robot does not need any human help at any time. And I think most folks would agree today, after the last decade of working in this industry, that may be a bit sci-fi. Like the fact that a robot can absolutely handle everything by itself all the time. Honestly, not only is it a question of whether that would be technically possible anytime soon, it's also not necessary. If you have one person whose job is to manage, 1,000 robots out there, right, going from 1,000 robots to 1,001 doesn't really improve the economics all that much. Mm-hmm. Even when you use an app today, there's a customer support that eventually every now and then you have to use, right? So humans can stay there to help with those edge cases. So as long as they're there for edge cases, I would classify that as level 4, which is what we do today. So we have people in charge of the robots. One person is managing multiple robots simultaneously. What we have disclosed publicly is that we can do 1 person 4 robots. And to my knowledge, we may be the only company in this space that is a 1 person managing multiple vehicles rather than a 1-to-1 relationship, which again, not everybody discusses this information publicly, but the industry understanding is that most of the vehicles out there have that 1-to-1 relationship today. We are beyond that already, and we are improving it further every month. The nice thing is that our robots carry 3,000 times less kinetic energy than a car. Mm-hmm. So we are making roads safer today, even every time we remove a car from doing that delivery. And humans' job, therefore, is a little bit easier. They don't have to be in the loop for safety. Right. They're in the loop just so that they can deal with edge cases. Like we get to wet cement somewhere, there is construction. What do we do? That's when a human actually gets involved. Or one time we got to a police cordoning off a section of the road, and a human had to step in. The irony is that they actually made a mistake and decided to cross the tape, and we had a whole thing about that. So people's job is to deal with edge cases, but even people can be less than perfect in what they do. So in fact, we found that introducing more and more automation makes our system more reliable.
So how powerful is the automation? How much do you have a neural net that you're using? That data, the data warehouse, you have a partnership with NVIDIA, right? To what extent can the bots recognize humans or poles and fire hydrants and whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, so we use NVIDIA chips inside. We have been doing that since 2018. So it's a partnership that technically started back in 2018. We have cameras. We do have one lidar. Again, being a smaller vehicle means that we don't need too many lidars like some of the other vehicles have to have. That one does all the job that we needed to do, and we can detect obstacles. We can detect people, static obstacles. We can understand the environment. Where is the sidewalk? Where is the road? Where is actually even grass? Sometimes if someone is on a wheelchair coming by and we need to clear, our robot would go into the grass and let them pass. So the robots actually have pretty good drivetrain to deal with this sort of situation, deal with sidewalks that have problems. Maybe there's a tree root that's damaging the surface, or lack of curb cuts. All that stuff is designed so that the robot can understand and react accordingly. Even like set its speed depending on the quality of the surface. The robot can do that.
And then how does it know if it's the red light and the walk sign and all that? How does it recognize that? How do you teach that?
Cameras, AI. I mean, we use deep learning. We use even some large, VLMs, large kind of vision models. We are using not inside the robot. In some cases, we use those offline or outside. The robot can actually ask for help remotely, and the VLMs can take a look and help. It takes a little bit longer, but our robot can stop at any time and ask for help. That's one of the advantages of not being on the road. And of course, a lot of different deep learning models that are used for detecting lights, detecting boundaries, detecting people, projecting where they're going. It's actually very similar to the autonomy stack you see in vehicles, but we have a lot more affordances, and again, having a lot less kinetic energy makes this something that's viable today, and it's working really nicely.
Oh, but it doesn't need to call back home though. Like it recognizes this is, I'm not allowed to cross the street right now. And then as soon as it turns
so it recognizes that it's at an intersection. It comes to a stop. Now we have times where we want humans to help. And actually right now when we are crossing, it's the only time we have a safety risk truly, because we are, dealing with cars and they could kill people. Our vehicle, even if it hits someone at full speed, it's not that kind of risk. Most likely you have a bruise and you keep walking. But when we're dealing with cars, we want to be super cautious. So today we ask people to oversee the robots when they're crossing intersections, but that's something that would likely change sooner than later.
Gotcha. That's what I was asking. So right now, every time it hits an intersection, somebody from teleoperation, just make sure it's okay. But eventually it'll figure it out and learn
that would all be done. Yeah.
What does it take you? Like, do you geofence a certain location and then say, okay, I'm good for this particular neighborhood, and then that's what you do expansion wise? Or is it like a generic technology like Tesla's trying to do, where eventually you can pop this anywhere, it can do it?
Yeah, ours is, I would like to say it's more like Tesla than the kind of the existing models. So we don't need maps, for example, to go somewhere. We don't need HD maps already built. We can operate somewhere even if there's no existing map. The only times we geofence is if there is regulatory reasons. For example, there is a street that we are told we shouldn't operate in, we would geofence that. Or if you're going too far from our operating area, we would not want to go. We want the robots to be able to return home by themselves. So for that reason, we may kind of have a radius limit. But generally, every day we go into places we haven't been before. A new customer ordering somewhere from a side alley or whatever that we haven't been to. So we would go cover
Everybody's
that.
home is somewhere different, right?
Yeah. That's exactly right. So we don't need to.
Yeah.
We don't need to be mapped. We don't need to have gone there before. We rely on AI a lot to help us with that. And again, if the robot is in doubt, it can ask for help. So that gives us a lot of advantage.
Okay, I guess the part that people say is the hardest part, especially even Uber and Robotaxi, is that last mile. It's not even the mile, the last 100 feet, where you're going to my house. Well, my house, I want you to park here in front of the mailbox and don't go over this side, because that's where I'm going to go out. Like, how do you guys figure that part out?
That's a really good question. So actually, it starts with restaurants, because they're in some of the busiest places. If you think about where restaurants are usually located, because of the way cities are planned, they're usually in places that have the most challenges around real estate, around parking. I've been asked sometimes about whether self-driving cars are going to do deliveries we are doing today. The fact is actually they can't. Because they can't get to the front door of the restaurant most of the time. Most restaurants don't have parking to dedicate to a self-driving car, and the car would have to find a legal spot somewhere. We actually solve this problem. because we can go all the way to front door. We get that information from the merchants where they tell me, I would like you to stop here, so they can contact us. We would record that, and that becomes what the robot does every time it gets there. And same thing if we have an apartment that has a tricky kind of entrance area, that gets logged. We map all that information. So we are really building in really interesting local database of all these nuances that every delivery business needs to be able to do deliveries reliably. And then the robots would then behave accordingly. Every future robot is going to go to the right spot. But just to finish that thought, you mentioned our partnership with Wing Aviation, which is a subsidiary of Alphabet doing drone deliveries. Well, drones have a similar challenge of getting to the front of a restaurant, because that's, again, there are lots of people there. There's no dedicated real estate. Right. So we show up to these new neighborhoods, and within weeks, we have 750. We had 300 restaurants last quarter. Within weeks, we had 750 as we expanded. And all it took was a message, an email that said, hey, we're doing your deliveries with robots, to get someone onboarded. We can show up to their front door. So we solve this problem, not just for Wing and for drone companies, but also possibly in future for self-driving car companies. So if a delivery is more than a couple of miles and we can't do it ourselves, we can hand it over automatically, I should say, as you saw in the video probably. Automatically, we can hand it off to a drone from Wing, or in future, hand it off to a vehicle that's parked in a dedicated spot, maybe a couple of blocks away.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, no, I saw the video, and we'll play it on the hopefully, and we'll play it in the B-roll here. But basically, the bot shocked me. Your Serve Robotics bot can actually have arms that go out and hand the package to a drone, and then that grabs it. And then I guess you can put it into the car and pull it out of the car would be your plan. But would these bots be in the car? Yeah. How would the bot get out of the car? That would be
the robot won't get into the car. I mean, you don't really want a capital asset going into another capital asset. You want them to be outside doing their thing as much as possible. So the robots would come to a central location, maybe every couple of blocks. The cars and drones would have, dedicated depots where loading and unloading happens. Gotcha. And our robot's job is to kind of be that final few hundred feet runner that brings items. If it's a short distance, we would just do the delivery. If it's long, hand it over.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about homes though, right? So you deliver it, a car delivers it to the house, and then, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there is the other side. People tend to be more motivated to come get their food. So usually not a problem. Okay. But down the line, we may have to have solutions for handing off the item automatically.
Okay. Let's go through your partnerships, because they're very interesting. Yeah. So you've partnered with Uber Eats, which is obviously a giant, just that alone is massive partnership for you, number one. And then I'm not talking about customers right now. I'm talking about the partnerships. You've got Uber Eats, and then you said it's any of them, you'll partner with any robotaxi or delivery ride-hailing service. Then you've got a partnership with Wing. So Wing is a drone delivery. So what does that allow you to do? Larger radius, or what's the goal there?
Yeah, when we are talking to restaurants, say Shake Shacks of the world, Pizza Hut, we've done pilots with them. There's always the question of, okay, we do half the deliveries. We can help you with automating half of your deliveries. What about the other half? So it really strengthens the value proposition. If you can offer them a full package, something that can do both. And with the help of drones, we can actually offer that. So we are starting a pilot in Dallas in a matter of weeks to show that this works. And Dallas is the first city that I'm aware of in the country giving drone operators permission to go beyond line of sight. So they can, rather than just going a mile, they can go like 6 miles in this case. So that covers like 90-something% of deliveries effectively. So we can work with them to show that we can now do not just the short distance, but also the long distance, half of all deliveries. And to me, that's really compelling when you're working with restaurants and fast food brands nationwide. And then, of course, with Uber, we have the advantage of being able to go and work with every restaurant, even a mom and pop shop, every small player who's on Uber Eats would immediately get access to our robots, which is really, really compelling. You actually get more utilization for your robots by doing so. And we can go to any new city tomorrow and immediately have demand. So we have this insatiable, almost infinite demand for robots for the foreseeable future.
Oh, for sure. So I can see where you're going here, right? So you're partnering with drone companies. And then this part here is very exciting or interesting. AutoCado, you bought this technology. and this is restaurant automation. So that seems outside, completely different. Like, what are you doing that, right? You got this bot that can deliver things, and that market is massive. Why do you need to get into the autonomous restaurant cooking, I guess?
Yeah. So when you talk to folks in, who are running these major brands, they have thousands of locations, etc. They're not sitting there thinking, how do I do my deliveries in a more automated way? They're thinking about, I have a staff of, X number of people per store. How do I introduce automation holistically that can help me with various problems that I have? And they don't have a ton of bandwidth. Often they're not technology companies. They don't have a lot of bandwidth to go try every technology. They're usually looking for one or two partners to help them navigate this question. So by bringing Autocado, which was opportunistic, we have the founder of Autocado, who is really well known in the restaurant automation space, is someone that I've known for a few years. He actually invested in Serve and joined my board 3-4 years ago when we started. Buck Jordan is his name. So Buck and I have known each other for a while. I've been tracking what they're doing. We always thought that we're solving the same problems for the same people using the same type of technology. So there's a lot of synergy. Often he would introduce us to restaurants and we would introduce him to people. So it just seemed like a very natural fit for us to come together and try to help restaurants in a more holistic way. And to me, this is a competitive advantage, because as I'm competing with every other company that's trying to offer automation to restaurants, I like to be the place that the restaurants want, or the partner that the restaurants want to work with. And that was the reason why we thought putting these two pieces together, it actually is a really powerful offering.
Okay, so I get the business idea, right? Because you want to provide automation for restaurants, and then that, right, if you define it that way, it could be a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But there's so many competition in that space, right? There's the industrial robot arms, sure, that can serve. There's the ones that are on wheels, the ones that are mm-hmm. not on wheels. You got maybe even humanoids that can come in, yeah, and take that. You got the the automated assembly line model too. There's just so many choices and options mm-hmm. there. Are you in the arm business? Is that what this? Because you did already have those two arms that pop out to grab it from the. Yeah, what's right. the plan there?
Yeah. So Autocado, it looks like any other kind of kitchen appliance. It doesn't have right. It doesn't have an arm, but you load the avocados into the machine, and a lot of the robotics happens inside, where it basically peels the item, the avocados, and processes them and gets the meat out, and gives you the output, which is just the flesh. And this doesn't require arms in this case. Not every solution is going to require arms or that kind of human form factor. If you think about harvesting, for example, the combines are really efficient machine, and they don't have arms. They just, they're a different way of processing things. And you're not going to replace combines with humanoids, for example. That just won't be as efficient. This is the same thing. This is a form factor that's appropriate for processing avocados, and there's going to be plenty of demand for it. And this form would cost less to make. In the future, maybe something requires arm. We would do that. Buck's first company does actually do that. They had robotic arms. But I think the lesson is listen to your customers, see what they need today, see what's the most practical way of solving it. Because what I want to do is be the first profitable company in this robotics and autonomy space. It's a really big challenge. A lot of players are doing this. To me, the true flywheel gets going when we have a set of offering different customers with considerable revenue and fully profitable. That is Gotcha. The holy grail that I've been working towards.
I guess I didn't realize until just now. So this is very specifically designed for avocados.
Exactly.
A very specific use case for that. Okay. And then, so that's just step one. And then you'll create other kinds of bots. So you've got a Gen 3, right? I'm going to show that version here. Yeah. Tell me more about this Generation 3 version of this bot.
Yeah, so we are always iterating both on the software side, improving autonomy and a lot of the behavior of the robot, but also we are improving the hardware. Gen 3 is our latest robot that we just introduced. These robots are now being manufactured. I mentioned Magna helps us manufacture them. So the robots have a lot of improved specifications. For example, they can move almost like twice as fast. They have more battery life. Our existing robots can go all day on a single charge, charge that's usually like 8-9 hours, these robots can go like 14 hours on a single charge, which is really important because you want to send that robot out to work and you want it to stay there 10-12 hours and do as many deliveries as possible if you want to get the economics to truly work, because your denominator for all your costs, they all get divided by the number of deliveries you did that day. All the other costs are fixed. There's no incremental cost per delivery. It's a cost of hardware, it's a cost of people that are involved, it's a cost of real estate. All of that gets divided by how many deliveries did I end up doing at the end of the day. And to do that, you want more battery life. So this robot has that. It also has a better drivetrain, bigger wheels, suspension. It helps it move faster. It has 5 times more compute power, better sensors, and more space. So the cargo space has improved. So now it fits 4 extra large pizzas. And I should say, all of that at half the cost of the previous generation robots. So the cost is also coming down really fast.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so a number of questions here. So first of all, this, Magna is your partner. They're a Canadian automotive supply factor, and they're massive. They create cars.
Right. That's right.
They create cars for many brands. They can do this. They've got this experience and all that. So you've decided to outsource the manufacturing. You've chosen your partner. And just tell me more about that idea. Some people feel like the manufacturing is something they should own. What's your future plans here?
We are a small company. We are about 100 people. So it's really important to decide where do we move the needle and where should we, rely on other people. It could make sense for some folks to want to own manufacturing. In our case, our robots are not as complex as cars. So it's entirely possible that for us to own that challenge, but I don't think it's necessary. And in Magna, we found a really good partner. We can trust them. We don't have to send our IP to China or like some of the risks that you have to take or deal with those kind of supply chain challenges. So we are working with someone who is going to be assembling these robots right here in the US. We know them quite well. They have a big presence here in Mexico, in Canada, and they can, scale really quickly if we ask them to, and ship thousands, if not tens of thousands per month when the time comes for us to get to that kind of scale. So it gives us that confidence that as the demand comes in and we get to a position where we want more robots, we can have them.
Okay, well, you are brilliant. I mean, you got the right partners. Tell me your milestones then. So you've got 100 now, you got 2,000 you're hoping for next year. You got these great partnerships. Just Uber alone could probably carry on. What's your thinking? What's the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Are you talking like 2,000, 20,000, 100,000? What's your numbers?
Yeah, I mean, without giving projections since we are a public company, but yes, look, I expect that you're going to see these robots in every major city in just a few years. We want to get at least like say 5% or more of deliveries off the ground in the next few years, as much as possible, off the road. I mean, as in the next few years, because again, there is a cost of doing this using cars, whether it's emissions or lives or just the cost of delivery itself. No matter how you look at it, this is not the best way of moving goods, and we wanna really make a dent in that in the next few years. We are well positioned to do it, and my estimate is, if you think about it, like how many taxi drivers you have in a single city, it's usually a 1 to 100 ratio. So one person serving 100 people in a population. I think you can have something like that for robots. So you can have millions of robots in the United States alone, and that's just to serve the demand that exists today. As we bring that cost down, I think you're going to have all sorts of new applications and opportunities for these robots. So our focus is just to scale these up and really bring robots to life. I mean, that's what's really exciting about this. We're bringing robots.
Like 100,000, million? When do you get that per year?
I don't want to get into trouble with the SEC. So,
all right.
But I would tell you that we are going to need millions of these machines and it's just a matter of how quickly we get there.
All right. And then competition. Who are your competition? How many of these bots companies are doing exactly what you're doing?
Yeah, we're kind of a rare breed, and I'll explain why. But if you look at it more broadly, the competition would include obviously couriers. But when we're talking about the automation, you could use cars or drones. As I explained before, they're usually not the best mode of transportation when you're in the short distance half of the deliveries, when you're in a more high density areas. So we actually see them as partners rather than competition. Then if you limit it to personal sized robots like like ours, there are a few players that operate on campuses. It's a slightly different technology and market there, because usually you can map the area really carefully. You don't go to new places. There are some challenges too. The amount of money you make on a campus is more limited. The market size is more limited. So we, from the beginning, decided not to pursue that area. There's some folks that are there, but again, we don't see ourselves in that club. So among the folks that are operating on the city street or the city sidewalks, there's a couple of players. Our advantage is that we are more autonomous than everybody else. We have more mature hardware, and right now we have the largest scale compared to anybody.
Yeah, you're the largest. Okay. And then when are your sidewalk delivery, food delivery, what's the next stage? Are you going to go to hospitals, like you mentioned, pharmacy? What's the next, or is it going to be just a sidewalk food delivery for 3-4 years and then expand from there? Or what's the plan?
It really is about opportunities, and we are exploring a few different paths. So one is expanding to new markets in the country or in US and Canada, which we are looking at, but also we have partners from other countries that have reached out to us, so we can expand our footprint by going to new countries with the same robots.
Right.
We can also add new verticals. Pharmacy is a great application. I'm very excited about that. You have other I don't know, alcohol, I mentioned parcels, other types of applications. Amazons of the world could be an eventual partner for us, so we can help them as well, or new applications like reverse logistics. Those are all really exciting stuff, and it's the same form factor robot. And there's a whole other thing we didn't really touch on, but Magna, independently from building our robots for us, they also licensed our technology to build robots for their own applications. This is
inside the factories, like indoors.
That's right. Exactly. Okay. Or between the plants. So it could still go outside and go from one building to another, for example, because there are robots and factories that move things today, but they're usually in very confined spaces. But when you leave the confined space and there are people and cars and other things, you still need people to move goods. So we can help with such a thing. So they're actually licensing our tech. They're our first partner in that domain that would want to use our technology to build other types of robots. So we're very excited about that. So that might be another way where maybe we don't build the robots for hospitals. We provide our tech to folks that want to address hospitals. So we'll kind of have to see as we expand what the best way for us to add value and create shareholder value looks like.
What's the regulation required? Like, can you just go ahead and drop this anywhere, anytime? Or do you need to get the city approval? Do you need to get the country approval? Do you need to have some sort of safety certification, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, in the United States, by default, our robots are allowed to operate anywhere. There are no laws against them. There are a couple of exceptions where a city has decided to put some ban against the robot. That's usually because maybe a smaller player did something there. They didn't talk to the city first and they upset them. We have actually been very collaborative. We always go to them first. Like when we went to LA, we reached out to them and said, hey, we want to operate robots. We've looked at the law. There's nothing against this, but we did want to give you a heads up. We want to be good partners. And they responded accordingly. They gave us a letter that says, yeah, there's nothing against this. Thanks for letting us know. And then over the years, we actually worked with them to put a partnership in place. Same thing with West Hollywood, which is a city within LA. We've been very successful with getting them into kind of a collaborative relationship. We share data with them. We let them know where there's like issues with their infrastructure, what the types of volumes and work we're doing. All of that is valuable.
Pothole.
Yes. No, absolutely. There is a lack of curb cut.
Security.
For American Disabilities Act.
Yeah.
I prefer not to do things that are negative. I think robots have some work to do to earn people's trust. So let's stay to places that clearly the value add is positive, like removing cars from the street so that people are safer. So I think that's a better place for us to get started.
This is so fun, so cool. But so it sounds like your partnership with Wing, you've partnered with all the right people, and then you've got this expansion model. Where do you see you guys in 5 years? I'm guessing you don't think that you're just a food delivery, sidewalk delivery bot at that point. What is the market you're, R2D2s? Are you the smart, we've been calling it human scale bots, not the humanoids, but these are robots that are intelligent, that you can do things, but it can do all sorts of things. It's like a universal general purpose bot, but in a different form factor than humanoids.
Yeah, I would like us to power many robots, many form factors, moving around with people doing services, helping people, whether it's the elderly or deliveries or whatever you can think of, whether it's in a hospital or an airport or in the city. Some of those we would be making the robots ourselves, like the robots for delivery right now. Some of them may be made by other companies that take advantage of our technology to get to market faster, since we've spent the last 7-8 years building this tech and it's working really well. So I would like to see more robots everywhere. That's kind of been my dream since I was a teenager, and I think we're getting really close to that.
What's your thoughts on Tesla? Tesla, of course, is considered to be the leader in humanoid with their Optimus bot, but because of their vehicle robots, they can basically apply all that technology to any form factor. And Elon has been referring to R2D2s quite often. It's pretty obvious at this point. You've heard some Tesla AI autonomy executives refer to bot animals, so that it's not just a humanoid. They might do these kind of bots as well. Would you partner with them? What's your thinking about their technology, or any comments about that?
Yeah. I obviously love what Elon and Tesla has been doing. There's a lot of, I think, energy injected into robotics space because of this. Both their work in self-driving, I think, has really energized the space, and now their work in robotics. I think we really need folks like Tesla to invest in the general purpose applications and form factors like humanoids. And I think that we are solving a really important problem that could have a lot of implications and perhaps partnership opportunities down the line, because until you're on that sidewalk, it's a very different environment than the road. The data that we're going to collect basically what's going to be the largest fleet of autonomous vehicles, which is going to include LiDAR, at least at the beginning, and maybe down the line that goes away. This is really valuable data that we can use to train models that are even more sophisticated. I think there are a lot of opportunities as the form factors question gets answered. And, Tesla shared their objectives, I think about like 25,000 per humanoid, something in that target. I think there's going to be a lot of new applications made possible by that. Now, some form factors, just to be clear, I think would stay different. You don't need one form to conquer all. It won't be most efficient. I think our robots are going to be substantially cheaper than that, and they're better for what they do. But I think there's a lot to share when it comes to how to navigate among humans, body language. There's some really design elements that we have worked really hard on. So I think there are also partnership opportunities. But obviously, I'm a big tech nerd myself and big fan of what Elon has been doing and following that space really closely.
Gotcha. No, thank you. And what's your thoughts on the requirement for a supercomputer and massive data and machine learning? Is it going to be reliant on NVIDIA? Are you going to use their data centers? Or are you going to create your own? Or are you going to partner with somebody with that?
Yeah, we've been partnered with NVIDIA for some time, and I'm very happy and very thankful to them. Every generation of a robot, even if we don't do anything else, a new NVIDIA chip shows up and gives us a boost in how much compute we have available, which is fantastic. They are the best ecosystem right now if you're developing something to be able to develop quickly, get to market fast, and then continuously have those improvements. So I'm a big fan. We've been very happy with our partnership there.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Ali. Appreciate this very much. You are clearly the leader. Again, I'm just blown away with the partnerships, the technology. It works, and you're just going to grow and expand at this point. You're public. You raised, good size money now, but then once you hit certain milestones, I'm sure you're going to just raise even more at that point, right?
I appreciate
and blow
it.
this up. Yeah, but
it's
manufacturing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Obviously, this is the space to be, robotics. Appreciate you. Thank you, everybody. So check out serverobotics.com. You're, again, like you said, you're public. The company's public. You can look them up there and just follow them. This is a company to follow. You guys are just every month, you have a new partnership and you're expanding quickly.
Thanks. You. We're very excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.